I'm David. I'm 76 years old, and I need to tell you something I should have understood 40 years ago. This isn't a victory story. It's not advice from a man who figured it out. I'm telling you because my time is shorter now, and because there's a kind of mistake that doesn't feel like a mistake while you're making it. From the outside, my life looked clean and impressive. I built a company worth $200 million. I had the corner office, the private jet, a house near the water where the air smelled like salt and sunscreen and money. People called me a success story. Business magazines wanted my face. Young entrepreneurs wanted my secrets. But the truth is, while I was building that empire, I was breaking the only things that were ever going to hold me at the end. I sold the company years ago. The money stayed. The applause didn't. The people didn't either. There's a certain kind of quiet that comes when you've made it and still end up alone with your own thoughts. No meetings, no deadlines, just you and the parts of your life you kept postponing until they stopped waiting. If you're doing what I did, if you're telling yourself just a few more years, please listen, because I told myself that same line, and I was wrong about almost everything. Back then, it all looked normal, even respectable. In 1978, I was 30, newly married to Sarah, and I'd just started my own business. I didn't feel like a dreamer. I felt like a man with bills and a name to prove. I wanted to be the kind of husband who could pay for a good life without flinching. I told myself that was love. Those first years were a grind in the plainest sense. Coffee that tasted burnt, fluorescent lights, yellow legal pads, a phone that never stopped ringing. I'd drive home long after dark with my hand still tight on the wheel, rehearsing tomorrow's problems in my head. I wasn't chasing yachts yet. I was chasing survival, payroll, rent, the fear of failing in front of everyone who said I was crazy. And when things started working, when clients stayed, when the numbers finally turned the right way, something ugly happened inside me. I liked the feeling of being needed. People don't clap for you at home the way they clap for you in business. At home, you take out the trash, and you fix the sink, and you sit through the quiet parts. At work, you close a deal, and suddenly you're the guy, the one who can handle it, the one who doesn't sleep. That kind of praise is a drug if you let it be. Soon I had a small office, not fancy, but it was mine. A door that closed, a desk that stayed clean because no one else touched it, a calendar packed so tight it looked important just sitting there. I'd come home with that smell on me, paper, aftershave, and stress. And Sarah would ask how my day was. I'd answer like a report. She was patient. She really was. She'd say, "It's okay. We're building our future." And I let those words do all the work for me. I let them forgive me in advance. From the outside, it looked like discipline. A man providing, a man building, a man doing what he was supposed to do. Inside, it felt like constant pressure and a strange kind of pride. Like if I just pushed a little harder, we'd finally reach the part where I could breathe. I honestly believed I was building something that mattered. And the first quiet cost was this. I started treating the people I loved like they were patient, like they were stable furniture in a house I kept walking past. Always there, always waiting, never the urgent thing. In 1983, our daughter Emma was born. Sarah went into labor while I was in a board meeting, and I stayed in that room longer than I should have. I remember the clock on the wall more than I remember my own panic. I kept thinking, 5 more minutes, just finish this point. Don't look weak. Don't lose control. I got there eventually. People like to say, at least you made it. But that's not how it works. You either show up or you don't. You either have that moment in your bones or you have a story about why you missed it. I walked into the hospital smelling like cologne and stale coffee, tie still on, hair still combed, like the meeting mattered more than the room I was entering. Sarah looked exhausted in a way I didn't understand yet. Emma was already there, already real, already changed the shape of our life without me even noticing it happen. I told myself it would be different now. I told myself I'd be there for the important parts. But my definition of important was still broken. The weeks after that were the same routine with a new soundtrack. The baby monitor crackling at night. Sarah moving quietly in the dark. Me staring at the ceiling, thinking about invoices and competitors and how fast I could grow. Sometimes I'd come home and Emma would be awake, tiny fists, red face, that helpless little anger babies have. Sarah would hand her to me, and I'd hold her like she was fragile glass. I'd bounce her for a minute, make a promise in my head, and then my phone would ring. It was always the phone. I'd step into the hallway, lower my voice, and handle just one thing. When I came back, Sarah would already be rocking Emma again, her back to me, not dramatic, not yelling, just doing it without me. And I kept thinking, good, she's got it. That's what I told myself. She's got it. What I didn't see was that every time I let her have it, I was teaching them both the same lesson. I wasn't the kind of man you could count on to stay in the room. After a while, it stopped being one missed moment here and there. It turned into a pattern I could feel in my body. I'd leave before Emma was awake. I'd come home when she was already in pajamas, cheeks flushed from a bath I didn't help with. The house would smell like whatever Sarah cooked, and I'd catch it only in the last few minutes before the dishes were done and the lights were dim. I missed dinners, birthdays, anniversaries, not in some dramatic way. More like I was always almost there, always soon, always next time. Sarah would save me a plate and wrap it in foil. I'd eat standing at the kitchen counter, still half in my work clothes, still answering questions that weren't being asked out loud. She'd talk about Emma's day, and I'd nod like I was listening, but my eyes would drift to my briefcase, like it was calling me. I started measuring my life in deliverables. One more contract, one more quarter, one more expansion. And every time I made a promise to my family, I made it like a man who assumed time was endless, like the calendar would always bend for me. There were small scenes that should have stopped me. Emma in the back seat after school, talking about something that mattered to her, and me saying, "Uh-huh," while my mind rewrote an email. Sarah holding the phone out to me when a relative wanted to say hello, and me shaking my head because I had a thing. The way Emma would look up when the front door opened, and then look away when she realized it was just me passing through the house like a visitor. I told myself it was normal. I told myself this is what providers do. This is what ambitious men do. This is what building a future looks like. And Sarah, she didn't explode. She didn't beg. That's the part people don't understand. She just got quieter, more efficient, like someone learning how to carry weight without asking for help anymore. Sometimes she'd say, very softly, "You're missing it." And I'd answer with the same line every time. I know, just for now. I made just for now into a lifestyle. By the time Emma was old enough to keep score, I was already losing. There's one moment I keep going back to. It isn't the divorce papers. It isn't the heart attack. It isn't the sale of the company. It's smaller than that. Quiet enough that nobody would write about it in a magazine, but it's the one that never stopped stinging. Emma was about 7. I remember the light in my office that afternoon, harsh and white, the kind that makes everything look tired. The air smelled like warm electronics and old coffee. My tie was loosened, sleeves rolled up, a yellow notepad full of scribbles in front of me. I was on a conference call, headset pressed to my ear, doing that thing I did back then, half listening, half planning the next sentence so I sounded sharp. I could hear men talking numbers, deadlines, strategy, voices stacked over each other like it mattered. Then the door opened just a little. Emma stepped in. She had on a T-shirt with a stain near the collar, and her hair was messy, the way it got when she'd been running around the house. In her hands she held a piece of paper, a drawing, crayon colors, thick and uneven, like she'd pressed down hard. She was smiling in that open way kids smile when they believe you're about to be proud of them. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, waiting for the right moment, like she'd already learned there was a right moment and a wrong moment with me. I looked up, saw her, and without thinking, I raised one finger. Just a minute. I didn't even mouth the words kindly. I didn't soften my face. It was the same gesture I used on adults who interrupted me. The same impatience. She froze. 30 seconds, maybe less. Long enough for her smile to fade, but not long enough for me to notice. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. The paper bent slightly in her hands. Then she turned around and walked out. No drama, no tears, just gone. Later I found the drawing in a drawer. I don't remember when, I don't remember why I was looking there. But it was folded once down the middle like something you hide when it stops feeling safe to offer. At the bottom, in uneven child handwriting, she'd written, "I love you, Daddy, even though you're always busy." 7 years old. That sentence has followed me longer than any business deal ever did, because in that moment, she wasn't asking for a vacation or a college fund. She was asking for my eyes, my attention, my face turning toward her like she mattered more than the voice in my ear. And I gave her my finger. Just a minute. That's what I handed my daughter, and that's what she learned to expect. After that, nothing changed fast enough. That's the part that scares me when I look back. Not that I was cruel, not that I didn't love them. It's that I could have that moment, feel that little stab of shame, and still go right back to my desk. I'd tell myself, I'll make it up this weekend. Then the weekend would come and something would come up. By the early 90s, the company was growing the way I'd fantasized about when I was broke. New clients, new offices. My name said with a certain respect. The phone rang because people needed me, and I liked that more than I admitted. Sarah stopped asking as much, not because she didn't care, because she'd learned the answer. Sometimes I'd walk into the house and realize I didn't know what Emma was into anymore. I didn't know her friends' names. I didn't know what made her laugh. I'd hear her upstairs, a door closing, music I didn't recognize, and I'd stand at the bottom of the stairs like I was waiting for permission. And instead of walking up, I'd turn back toward my laptop. I told myself she was just at that age. 13 is hard, right? That's what people said, and I used it like a shield. It let me pretend the distance was natural instead of earned. In 1995, we made it. The company was worth around $50 million. We moved into a mansion that looked like success from the curb. High ceilings, echoes in the hallway, a kitchen so big it felt like a showroom. I remember the first night there. I came home late, as usual, and my footsteps sounded small in that big house. Sarah had already gone to bed. Emma's room door was shut. The place smelled new, like paint and expensive wood, and it should have felt like a win, but it felt like I was walking through a hotel I'd paid for. We took a vacation to Hawaii that year, our first real vacation in 12 years. I thought it would fix something. I pictured us laughing like a normal family. I pictured Emma running ahead on the sand and turning back to wave for me to follow. I pictured Sarah leaning into me again like she used to when we were young and broke and still on the same side. Instead, it was awkward in a way I didn't know how to name. At dinner, Emma would answer my questions politely, like she was talking to an uncle she saw once a year. Sarah would carry the conversation the way she carried everything. I'd look at them across the table and feel this quiet panic, like I'd arrived late to a party that had already moved on without me. One afternoon I tried to take Emma out, just the two of us. I offered ice cream. I offered shopping. I offered whatever I thought a daughter was supposed to want. She shrugged and said, "Mom can come if she wants." Not mean, not angry, just uninterested. That was the moment I realized something I didn't want to accept. They weren't waiting for me anymore. They had built a life that worked without me in it, because it had to. And I kept telling myself the same lie, just dressed up in new words. Once things settle down, we'll reconnect. Once she's older, she'll understand. Once I have more time, I'll finally be the father I meant to be. But more time was always somewhere ahead of me, a mirage, and I kept walking toward it, while my real life stayed behind. In 2001, Emma went to college, Stanford. I told people that part with my chest out, like her acceptance letter was another trophy on my wall, like it proved I'd done something right. We drove her there. The car was packed, boxes in the back, Sarah checking a list, Emma quiet, looking out the window like she was already halfway gone. When we pulled up, there were families everywhere, mothers crying openly, fathers trying to look strong and failing. It was hot, and the air smelled like cut grass and sunscreen and that nervous first-day energy. I helped carry boxes to her dorm room. I tried to make jokes. I tried to sound like a warm father. But I could feel it in my own voice, like I was reading lines I hadn't practiced enough. When it was time to say goodbye, Emma hugged Sarah for a long time. Not dramatic, not theatrical, just real. Then she turned to me. She hugged me for maybe 5 seconds, quick, mechanical, like she was doing the polite thing. It didn't hit me like anger, it hit me like a receipt. This is what you earned. That same year, Sarah asked for a divorce, not in a screaming fight, not in some movie scene where a glass shatters. We were in the kitchen. The lights were low. She stood by the counter like she'd been standing there for years, holding things together with her hands. She said she was done waiting. 23 years of marriage, and she looked tired in a way that didn't scare me at the time because I still thought tired meant you could rest and recover. But she wasn't talking about sleep. She said she'd been alone in our marriage for 2 decades, and I didn't have an argument. That's what I remember most, the emptiness in my mouth when I tried to defend myself and realized there was nothing clean to say. No heroic reason, no emergency that would excuse 20 years. I was married to my company. Sarah had been married to an absence. When the divorce was final, the house felt bigger and quieter, not peaceful, just hollow, like you could hear the echo of what wasn't happening anymore. No one asking where I'd been, no one waiting up for me, no one saving me a plate. You'd think that would have made me stop. It didn't. I did the dumbest thing a lonely man can do. I worked harder. I told myself I didn't need anyone. I told myself I'd build something so big it would make the loss feel worth it. I turned pain into fuel because it was the only thing I knew how to do with it. The company grew. It hit 200 million. I ended up on magazine covers. People shook my hand like I was a man who had figured life out, and every time somebody asked me how I did it, I smiled and gave them the clean version. I never told them the real cost, because the real cost wasn't numbers. It was a daughter who hugged me like a formality. It was a wife who stopped waiting, and it was me, sitting alone at night in an empty house, telling myself the same lie again. This is temporary. This is what it takes. Just keep going. You think the worst part is losing people. I thought that too. But there's something colder than that. It's the moment you realize you trained them to live without you. And now they're good at it. In 2009, I had a heart attack. I was 61. Still doing the same thing. Late night. Office lights on when the building was mostly dark. Papers on my desk. Phone buzzing. That familiar feeling that if I just push through this one more problem, I'll finally be able to breathe. Then my chest started hurting. Not like the movies. Not a clean scream and a collapse. More like pressure. Like something heavy sitting right in the center of me. My left arm felt strange. My skin got damp. I remember staring at my computer screen and thinking, this is inconvenient. That's how sick my thinking was. I drove myself to the hospital. That detail should tell you everything. I didn't call Sarah. She had remarried. That bridge was ash. I didn't call Emma. She lived in New York. And even if I had called, I didn't know if she would have answered. So I drove. One hand on the wheel, one hand trying to breathe through something I couldn't reason with. Red lights felt personal. The radio kept playing like the world didn't care what was happening inside my ribs. At the hospital, they put me on a bed and rolled me under bright lights, machines, wires, the beeping that never stops, cold air on my skin where they lifted my shirt. And then it hit me, not as wisdom, as humiliation. I had built this massive company. I had people who depended on me at work. I had employees, partners, a board, a whole structure designed to make me feel important. But lying there, hooked up to those machines, I had nobody. Nobody sitting in the chair by the bed, nobody holding my hand, nobody looking at my face like they were afraid to lose me. The only person who came quickly was a nurse who didn't know my name. She read it off a bracelet and moved on to the next task. I stared at the ceiling tiles and thought about all the times Sarah had sat alone at home, waiting for me. All the times Emma had stood in doorways holding a drawing or a story or a question, and I gave her a finger and a just a minute. And I realized something that felt almost physical. Work will take everything you offer it. It will take your nights, your weekends, your health, your marriage, your child's childhood, and it will never lean down and whisper, "That's enough. Go home now." It will just keep eating. I survived. People congratulated me for bouncing back. I hated that phrase, like it was a rubber ball, like my life was supposed to snap back into place. It didn't. Because when I finally saw the truth, there was no dramatic fix waiting for me, no clean reset, just a long, quiet consequence. You think you're building something permanent. I thought that. But the only permanent thing I built was distance. In 2012, I sold the company. Huge payout, headlines, handshakes. People said, "Now you can finally enjoy life." They said it like life was a resort you arrive at after enough work. like someone stamps your passport and lets you in. I was 64, with more money than I could spend, and I didn't know what to do with my evenings. That's what nobody tells you. When you stop running, you hear everything. The refrigerator hum, the ocean in the distance if the windows are open, the silence after you turn off the TV, the empty second cup of coffee you pour out of habit. I started calling Emma every week, same day, same time, like I could build a relationship the way I built a company. Consistency, effort, follow-up. Sometimes she answered. Sometimes it went to voicemail. When she did answer, she was polite. She asked how I was feeling. She told me about work. She kept her tone even, like she was talking to someone she didn't want to upset. I flew to New York. I told myself I'd show up. I'd prove I was different now. I'd do what I should have done when she was little. But time doesn't work like that. You can't go back and attend the soccer games you missed. You can't rewind a childhood and insert yourself into it like an extra scene. You can't manufacture inside jokes when you weren't there for the original laughter. Emma would meet me for lunch sometimes. A nice restaurant, cloth napkins, a table between us. She'd look at me while she talked, but it was a careful look, not warm, not cruel, just careful, like she was managing a situation that came with history, and every now and then she'd say something small that cut deeper than an insult. She'd mention a memory, and Sarah would be in it, not me. She'd say, "Mom and I used to," or "when Mom took me," and I'd nod like I was part of the story, even though I was hearing it for the first time. That was my punishment. Not screaming, not hatred, just being edited out. She got married 3 years ago. She asked me to walk her down the aisle. When she asked, my throat tightened so hard I couldn't answer for a second. I told myself, this is it. This is where it changes. This is where she lets me back in. I flew out, bought a suit, practiced what to say, sat in my hotel room the night before and stared at the wall like a man waiting for a trial. The wedding was beautiful. Flowers, soft music, Emma in a dress that made the room go quiet when she walked in. I remember the scent of her perfume when she took my arm. My hand on her elbow felt almost unfamiliar, like I was touching a life that had grown without my hands on it. I walked her down the aisle. People smiled at me like I was the proud father, and for a few minutes I let myself pretend. At the reception, Emma gave a speech. She talked about her mom, about how Sarah had been there for everything, how she'd taught her to be strong, how she'd shown her what love looked like in the daily, unphotographed parts of life. Then Emma looked at me and said something small. She thanked me for coming. That was it. She thanked me the way you thank a guest who made the trip. That night, back in my hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed in my dress shirt and listened to the air conditioner clicking on and off. I stared at the carpet and I cried quietly, because it was the first time I let myself say it plainly. I missed it. I missed the whole thing. And now I'm not the father she reaches for. I'm the father she tolerates because she's decent, because she has manners, because she doesn't want to be cruel. And I can't blame her. I trained her year after year to stop expecting me. So she did. And now when I reach for her, it's like reaching across a table that never gets shorter, no matter how many times you show up. That distance, that's mine. I earned every inch of it. I'm 76 now. The company is gone, sold off, absorbed, renamed. My name isn't on the door anymore. Most of the people who used to praise me wouldn't recognize me in a grocery store. The money's still here. It sits quietly in accounts. doing what money does. It doesn't talk back. It doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't look at you with love or disappointment. I live alone near the beach. The mornings are slow. The air comes in through the window and smells like salt. I make coffee and drink it in silence. Sometimes I travel. Sometimes I volunteer. Mostly, I just move through my days like a man trying not to think too much. But I think anyway. I think about Sarah standing in that kitchen, done waiting. I think about Emma at 7, holding a drawing, and me lifting one finger like she was an interruption. I think about the hospital in 2009 and the chair beside the bed being empty, not because people were busy, but because I had built a life where no one felt they belonged there. People will tell you success is sacrifice. They don't tell you what gets sacrificed. It's not just hours. It's not just energy. It's the soft parts of life that only happen once. The ordinary nights that quietly turn into the only real memories anyone keeps. And the worst part is, you don't feel the loss while you're doing it. You feel useful. You feel important. You feel like you're handling it. Then one day you look up and the people you love have stopped reaching for you. They don't hate you. They just don't need you. And you can't buy your way back into that place. You can't pay for the inside jokes you weren't there to hear. You can't donate enough to erase the years your child learned not to expect you. You can't hand someone a fortune and ask them to feel close to you. So here's what I'm leaving you with, and it isn't a comfort. If you keep choosing work the way I did, you might still get everything you're chasing. The title, the respect, the numbers in your account. You might get the whole shiny package, and you'll wake up one day with it and realize it doesn't sit beside you in a hospital room. It doesn't hug you like it means it. It doesn't call you just to tell you something small. It just sits there, quiet and useless, while your real life stays out of reach. That's the trade. And the older you get, the less anyone talks about it because it's easier to admire the results than to look at the cost. I'm telling you because I can't undo mine, and because it happens slowly enough that you won't notice until it's already permanent. Be careful what you keep calling just for now. Just for now is how you lose a whole life.